Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we are looking at something that literally affects almost every single person on the planet. I want you to think about this for a second. The average person touches their smartphone over 2,600 times a day. Let that sink in. 2,600 times. For nearly 2 decades, the smartphone has been the absolute center of our world. Yet, right now, as we speak, the end of the smartphone era is actively being engineered. So let's explore exactly how that's happening. Okay, let's dive into this because the contrast we're facing here is just staggering. On one hand, we have our current reality, right? Absolute, undeniable smartphone dominance. I mean, it is without a doubt the most successful consumer product in human history. It wakes us up in the morning, it guides us through complex cities, and it connects us to billions of people in milliseconds. But there's a massive contradiction happening in the shadows. The tech industry has this worst-kept secret. The biggest, most profitable companies on Earth, the very ones who built this dominance, companies like Apple and Meta, are quietly spending billions upon billions of dollars trying to build the exact device that will kill their golden goose. They are actively trying to disrupt themselves before a competitor does it for them.
Which brings us to a literal multi-trillion-dollar question. What replaces the most successful product in history? Just let the weight of that question sit with you for a second. We aren't just talking about, a cool new gadget. We are talking about completely redefining human interaction from the ground up. It's this high-stakes investigative mystery playing out right now in the boardrooms of Silicon Valley. But to truly understand what comes next and how we're actually going to replace this monolith, we first need to take a look at how we reached this peak.
Think about the fascinating evolution of mobile tech over the last few decades. It's wild when you look back. We started out in the PDA era with those clunky, business-focused devices where you had to tap away with a tiny plastic stylus. Then we moved into the golden age of BlackBerry and Nokia. Suddenly, having a mobile phone became a real status symbol, It was your on-the-go email machine. But the true paradigm shift happened in 2007 with the launch of modern touch interfaces like the iPhone and subsequently Android. They didn't just give us a better screen, they introduced capacitive touch and the App Store. And when you combine that with the massive global rollout of 4G and eventually 5G mobile internet, well, the smartphone wasn't just a phone anymore. It became a full-blown supercomputer permanently attached to our hands. Now, what's really interesting about this data is the sheer scale of this takeover. It's honestly hard to wrap your head around. We are looking at well over 1 billion smartphones shipped annually. Literally never before has one single type of device achieved this level of complete global penetration. It bridges continents, economies, demographics, uniting billions of active users under the glow of a glass screen. It's absolutely unprecedented in the entire history of human commerce. But, and this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn. Because despite these massive numbers, despite complete global saturation, and a market that seems totally invincible on the surface, the biggest shift is actually still ahead of us. This so-called invincible monolith is secretly facing a structural problem that is actively shaking the foundation of big tech right now. The numbers tell a story of a completely stalled engine. Global smartphone sales have totally flattened out over recent years. At the exact same time, consumer upgrade cycles, which is just the time we wait between buying a new phone, are stretching out longer and longer. Think about it. We used to enthusiastically upgrade every 2 years, usually driven by those classic carrier contracts, right? Now, we are holding onto our phones for 3, 4, even 5 years. The data is undeniable here. Consumers are experiencing major tech fatigue. You can actually feel the symptoms of this stalled innovation yourself. Just think about the last time you bought a phone. Today's devices improve incrementally, not revolutionarily. We get a slightly better camera lens, a screen that's maybe 5% brighter, or, a trendy titanium edge. To combat this boredom, we're seeing companies push massive premium pricing or experiment with folding screens just to try and generate a spark of excitement. Even the highly publicized recent AI integrations on phones feel more like minor software features rather than a fundamental shift in how we actually use the device. These are the classic telltale signs of an aging platform desperately trying to maintain its momentum. So the era of the glass rectangle is reaching its natural limits. What happens next will just be a hardware upgrade. It is going to redefine computing entirely. We are entering an aggressive, high-stakes technology war to capture the next era of human behavior. Because whoever wins this race, they're going to define how we interact with the digital world, how we work, and how we connect for the next 50 years. And this brilliantly illustrates who is actually vying for the throne. There are 3 main contenders leading the pack right now. First up, AI agents.
This is voice-first computing. Think of smart earbuds that talk to you, they adjust your emails, and act on your behalf without you ever needing to pull a screen out of your pocket. Next, you've got smart glasses and mixed reality. Devices like the Meta Ray-Bans are already overlaying digital information directly onto the physical world around you. And finally, the most radical frontier of all, brain-computer interfaces, like Neuralink, offering direct neural integration with machines. The defining trend across all three of these? It's a massive move away from one central screen that demands all your attention, shifting toward invisible, distributed interfaces. However, almost nobody knows this next part. The media absolutely loves to focus purely on the flashy consumer gadgets, right? The cool glasses, the sleek augmented reality headsets, the sci-fi Neuralinks. But there is an invisible trillion-dollar business race happening entirely behind the scenes, and it's focused purely on building the massive infrastructure required to make those gadgets actually work in the real world. What we are really seeing is an all-out ecosystem war and a massive reallocation of tech capital. Huge investments are pouring out of traditional smartphone R&D and dumping straight into AI hardware, cutting-edge semiconductors, spatial computing, and wearables. Why? Well, it all comes down to platform economics. The major tech companies know that whoever controls the hardware also controls the operating system and those incredibly lucrative developer ecosystems. If you own the platform, you make the rules. Right now, companies pay massive rents, like those 30% App Store fees, just to reach customers. They're spending billions today to own the next platform, simply so they don't have to pay that rent to a competitor when the smartphone finally steps down. But let's take a step back and stay grounded for a second. It's incredibly easy to get swept up in all this futuristic hype, but behind every shiny new device is an unexpected, often massive challenge. Transitioning humanity from screens safely tucked away in our pockets to computing that lives on our faces, in our ears, or actively mapping our physical environments, that is not going to be a smooth process. The friction is very, very real. So the crucial point is that we are looking at massive structural hurdles. Think about privacy for a second. If cameras and microphones are suddenly everywhere, built into our everyday glasses and our smart environments, privacy, security, and AI ethics become incredibly complex. Then you have the harsh realities of physics. How do you power smart glasses all day long without a heavy, uncomfortably hot battery pack sitting right on the bridge of your nose? Add to that the looming environmental threat of massive electronic waste as billions of legacy smartphones are eventually discarded. And perhaps the biggest hurdle of all, the steep consumer adoption barrier. Changing how humans instinctively interact with technology is incredibly difficult. We really have to view the exciting opportunities of tomorrow right alongside these very serious infrastructure and accessibility realities of today. And honestly, these exact challenges are the reason the smartphone hasn't died yet, and why you are likely still holding one right now. The real reason for its prolonged twilight is far more complicated than just waiting for an engineer to build a better holographic screen. Overcoming these battery physics, navigating the complex privacy laws, and building entirely new ecosystems, that takes a lot of time. But solving them is leading us directly toward a very specific, radically different vision for the year 2030 and beyond. Let's move on and see how this builds into a really profound concept known as ambient computing. This is a future state where technology literally disappears into smart environments, utilizing invisible AI and seamlessly integrated wearables. I want you to think of it kind of like electricity. Electricity is everywhere around you, powering almost every single aspect of your modern life, but you don't spend your days staring at the wires, right? This is a massive philosophical shift. The ultimate evolution of personal technology isn't to become a shinier, more prominent object in your hand. It's to disappear completely into the background, constantly ready to assist you without ever demanding your visual attention. When we extrapolate this philosophy out to the 2040 and 2050 outlook, the concepts we are talking about fundamentally reshape reality. We're looking at holographic interfaces that only appear exactly when you need them, highly personalized AI companions that anticipate your needs before you even speak, advanced health monitoring running silently in the background, and deeply integrated smart cities communicating with your wearables in real time. And remember, based on the massive capital we discussed earlier being reallocated into semiconductors and AI right now, this isn't some distant science fiction. This is the inevitable next step of the technological arms race currently underway. History shows us, pretty consistently, that no technology reigns supreme forever. Every generation has a device that defines its era. Radios gave way to televisions. Personal computers gave way to smartphones. Now, the smartphone isn't going to vanish tomorrow morning. You'll absolutely still have one in your pocket next year, for sure. But its era of absolute dominance, that time where it was the undisputed center of global innovation, that is absolutely fading. The torch is actively being passed.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of wild thought. The next computing revolution won't fit inside your pocket. It will simply disappear into the world around you. Are you ready for that shift? How will you adapt when the screen you've relied on for 20 years is no longer the center of your digital life? The world is changing, and now you understand exactly why.
Thanks for watching World Decoded. Make sure to like and share, subscribe, and stay curious.